And so,
Better.
so we are recording right now.
Oh, much better, much better, much.
Yay. All right. Well, we can officially say welcome to Bake with Sharon at Main Street. How awesome is this? Look at this beautiful kitchen. I don't want to hide the beauty. I am so excited to be in a kitchen and not in my dining room. And so I am thrilled to welcome you today to our first session, our fall session. And we are making, I really tried to plan my recipes based on the season. And so apples are in season right now. So we are going to be making apple chips and caramel dip. And so if anyone happens to be Jewish, we've got the Rosh Hashanah holiday coming up tomorrow. You'll be prepared with your apples. It's not honey, but still sweet. It's awesome. And I gave you a list of tools and ingredients. And so I have mine laid out here so you can see. And I'm not sure if any of you have heard, we're going to start off. I think most of you have already preheated your oven to 200 degrees. And if you haven't done that yet, please get that going. Just for future reference, if you have an air fryer, you can use an air fryer and you would do that to 350. But we're doing it old school today and we're using an oven. And we're going to start off by making our apple chips. We'll get those in the oven. And I just want to warn you, they have to bake low and slow. So it's 2 to 3 hours that they're going to bake. You'll need to stay on top of that and turn them every so often. But once that gets in, we can kind of set that timer and let that go. And then we're going to work on making our caramel dip. So as we get started, I just washed my hands. Hopefully you have too. And we're going to have 2 apples. I have Honeycrisp apples. You can use any apple you choose. A tartar apple, like a Granny Smith or a Honeycrisp. There's lots of varieties now, Pink Lady. All are pretty delicious because you get a little bit of a tart with your sweet of the dip if you eat them with their dip. But by the way, you can eat these all alone. You do not need the dip, and they're super healthy with just a little tiny bit of sugar and your cinnamon. So keep that in mind. I also wanted to point out that I made this recipe so if you cannot have dairy, you can make that non-dairy. I'm going to use dairy today. But just so you know, this is something you can be creative with and use, and it's gluten-free. So I'm really trying to make sure we cover our bases for all of the things that people can and can't eat. So to get started, I mentioned if you have a mandolin, this is a great time to use it. If you do not have it, do not worry. You can always use, make sure your knife is sharp. And we've talked about our knife skills, and you can do it on a cutting board. I'm going to do it with a mandolin today and show you how that works. Now, the beautiful thing about these is you leave the skin on. So we just need our freshly washed apple. Now, mandolins are interesting. I think most of them are pretty universal and the same. And so you can choose how thick or thin you want your slices to be. And they have a measurement. I'm going to see if I can, maybe I'll push it up here. And so I'm going to do it at the thickest measurement. This blade is super sharp. So most of them come with a protector for your hands. So I just want to make sure it's really easy to cut yourself. So you'd want to be super careful. And the same if you're using your knife. Just be very careful because you're cutting thin slices. So all we're going to do to get started is start slicing our apple. Again, I'm using it on the mandolin, and I'm just doing a little bit of pressure, and I'm going in one direction down. And when I do, let me show you what this looks like. Here we go. It's pretty thin. I actually feel like I could go a little bit thinner. Let me do that. Because you want them to be even a little bit transparent or thin so you can see through it. Let's see what happened. Yeah, this is too thin. So this is a good example for you to see the different kinds. So I'm going to go back and do something in the middle. When I start to get close to the end, I will use my protector for my hand. This recipe, you just need 2 apples. It goes a long way. And it fills about 2.5 or 3 sheet pans. So you'll see how much you use, and then you can decide how many sheet pans you need. Well, let's keep slicing. Is anyone else cooking with me, baking with me, and doing the slicing? I see Faith in the kitchen. Yay! All right.
Faith already cut her apples.
Look at Faith. You are so prepared, Faith. All right.
What happens if we get close to the core?
Very good question. Stop. We don't want to go to the core. So when you start to get close, just move your apple around to a fresh side that is not cut yet. And just, you don't have to use the whole apple for this because you don't core in your, you don't want a core chip.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna, and you can even have little pieces, by the way. So I'm gonna just wrap this up. I'm being super careful, but I'm gonna stop now because I think I have enough. The next,
Quiet, Nicholas.
the next thing we can do, and you guys, if it's okay, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself. Why don't you mute yourself if you don't have a question, and that way we can make sure people can hear the recipe. So the next part, oh, I moved my apples and I still need them. We're going to mix in cinnamon and sugar. But let me tell you a tip. Let me get another bowl.
I was just saying that the next time I'm home, I'll bake.
Great, awesome, Danielle. Thank you for letting us know. The next thing we're gonna do is we're going to make our cinnamon sugar, and you can do it right in the bowl of apples, but it might be easier to make it in a separate bowl first, mix it around, and then we'll toss it and we'll mix it all together to get them all covered with cinnamon sugar. It's gonna be delish. Okay, so I'm gonna take my cinnamon and I need let me double check that. Yeah, a half a teaspoon. The interesting thing about cinnamon is it goes a long way. And so you don't really need that much. It's a pretty strong spice. So a half a teaspoon. I've got and I'm just gonna give it a little jig. If you have a little extra, this is one of those times, it's okay. Because the more the merrier here with our topping. And then we need, what is the sugar situation? 2 teaspoons of sugar. Let me pull my teaspoon out.
Hey, Faith, get your cinnamon sugar. It's behind you. Behind you. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
So you can use your measuring spoon, or you could even use your whisk. I think I mentioned having a whisk is good. I have mine right here. So just give it a good, you want to get that all kind of mixed up. Do you see how mine is kind of dark? If you feel that you could add a little more sugar, if there's a lot of cinnamon, you could just top it off. This is a really forgiving recipe, so you can always just eyeball if you think you need a little more. And I feel like I need a little more. It's just that kind of day.
Hey, Faith, grab your phone. Okay.
All right. Once you,
After we put cinnamon and sugar in?
what's that?
You said 2 teaspoons of sugar, and then there's like a half teaspoon of
Cinnamon. Mix it together in a separate bowl, like I did.
Okay.
And then when
I'm going a little too fast.
I'm going too fast. Okay, thank you. How
I have a question, Sharon.
smart. Patrick made apples last night, which was a really good call, Patrick. Thank you for letting us know that. That's a good tip. And we'll
Hey,
move on.
Sharon, I have a question.
Yes, Highland.
My question is, what is the easiest dip to make, for instance, now if you're not wanting to use like apple or something like that? Like, are there any easy ways to make the dip?
Yes. Why don't we do this? Why don't we get through the recipe today? And if you have questions afterward, I will be happy to talk with you about other dips that you can make, okay?
Teaspoons of
Okay,
sugar.
thank
All
you.
right. So I don't want to go too fast. I'm going to recap. We have our sliced apples. We have our cinnamon sugar, which is 2 teaspoons of sugar and a half a teaspoon of cinnamon mixed together with a whisk. And I'm going to hold my bowl strong, a good hearty grip, and sprinkle it over my apples. I'm going to take my clean hand. You could use something else if you want. I'm going to use my clean hand. and give it a toss. And then I'm gonna add a little more sugar. Make sure we get these nice and coated. And I'm gonna show you what this looks like. You could even, if you really want to be adventurous, do a little bowl flip. I don't know if that's a great idea, but I'm trying it because it's fun. There we go. That's what they look like.
Sharon,
Yes.
the amount that we had seemed to be very small. The amount that you had seemed to be much larger that you were pouring in.
Well, I added a little bit more sugar. You could always add
Oh, okay.
a little bit more sugar.
Okay.
But it goes a long way. So what I wanted to mention, another thing, you know, sometimes when I do these recipes, I forget the tips that are helpful until I remake them again. And what I realized, and I should have told you when we started, yes, Ashley, the recipe is on the website. That's correct, the recipe is on the website. And so you can go on the website to see it. Oh, and Ben is putting it in the link. He's ahead of me. So this is a rack that you can use for baking. This one has little stands. Some of them come flat. You can bake this on a rack, or you can do it directly on your sheet pan. But if you, as you know, I love my parchment paper. I'm gonna put parchment paper even though I'm using my rack, because that way, if there's any dripping, I don't have to clean my pan afterwards. So I'm putting my pan with my parchment paper and my rack. And what I learned when I did this again is that the apples stick. So if you have your nonstick cooking spray, you can give it a little, just a little, don't go crazy, just a little light dusting, and you are going to put your apples out just thinly along the way. And it's okay if they overlap.
Excuse me, where did you say to spray again?
On the rack or on your pan, depending on what you have.
So do you want me to do it before or after parchment?
I want you to do it after the parchment. Thank you for clarifying, Elias. You're always very good at keeping me on track of how to explain things. Okay, so we're gonna get these going, and I'm gonna just spread them out. And if you're using a rack and one falls down, no worries, it's still gonna cook and bake.
I don't have a rack with me.
Okay, we're gonna get these out, and I'm gonna get these in the oven.
Wait, what's the temperature?
200 degrees.
Okay.
And again, it says in the recipe 2 to 3 hours. It really depends on your oven. So
Hey, Faith. Oh, sorry. Hey, Faith, are you putting the dipping sauce on the apples? Oh, you got to unmute yourself, babe.
okay, I'm gonna let you guys finish that. I'm gonna get this in the
Okay.
oven. I'm gonna put it in the middle rack. If you have more than one sheet pan, I would do the middle rack and the bottom rack. And then if you still have a third, you can put that on the top. It just might cook a little faster. So you wanna keep an eye on it. And I'm gonna put my timer, which I have never used before, so I'm trying this with you for the first time. And look at that, it works. We'll do it for 2 hours and 30 minutes, just in between.
2 hours and 30 minutes.
Right, because
Okay, you guys, we're doing a transition. You're gonna get apples in the oven. If you haven't done it,
mom just wrote
on to the caramel sauce. I'm hearing a little feedback. I'm not sure if someone might want to mute themselves. Okay, now for the caramel sauce, we need a medium saucepan. So this is my medium saucepan. And we are going to melt the butter and the brown sugar. And we're gonna mix that together for 2 minutes. I'm not sure who's not on mute, but let's go ahead and, oh, you're good, okay. So, you know, I always like to give you guys my tips and tricks. Whenever you melt butter, you always want to cut it first. Let me get got now a lot going on here. Let me move my pan up, my pot over here. I like to cut it up in chunks so that it melts evenly. You don't have to be perfect with this at all, but just if you haven't noticed this already about your butter, butter always comes wrapped in paper that has measurements right on it so that you know how much butter you're using. And I'm using a half a cup, and a half a cup is always 1 stick. So I'm just gonna cut it up in my chunks and just get nice, does not have to be perfect. And sometimes I'll just, to save my hands from getting buttery, I use my paper and just dump it on in. Okay. And the next thing we said I'm going to do, I pre-measured this already, but this is just 1 cup of brown sugar. So I'm mixing my butter first, and then I'm going to mix in my brown sugar. If you already poured it together, it's okay. But I'm gonna get this going. I am the first person using the Main Street kitchen and the first person using the Main Street stove. I'm so excited.
You just have the butter and the brown sugar?
You could just start with the butter. If you've already mixed the brown sugar, it's no biggie.
Okay.
It's all gonna melt together.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna give it a little
Turn it on. Like medium or something.
that melt.
Sharon, is that like high, medium, kind of? Medium, okay.
And then I've got my brown sugar. I'm going to stir it together for approximately 2 minutes. You just want it to really come together. It'll get a little bit darker and look caramely. So I am just mixing along here, getting this evenly melted. And once it's there, I'm going to pour my sugar, my 1 cup of brown sugar. And what's really cool about sugar is that on its own, even without butter, it melts into a liquid when you melt it, which is really cool. This is one of my favorite smells, by the way. So I'm moving my bowls because you know it's always important to have a clean workspace. I'm going to move my things out of the way. And once we get that melted, I just need to double check here. We're going to mix in our heavy cream and stir for about 2 more minutes. So your heavy cream is 2/3 of a cup. And remember, for a liquid measure, you always use a liquid measure cup. If you're doing a dry ingredient, you use a dry measuring cup like this. It's always okay if you use one or the other, but that's the general rule. The other tip to remember about when you use your heavy cream, always give it a good shake because sometimes the cream, some of it comes up to the top and you want to make sure it's mixed. So here I am walking over to the Main Street fridge. I'm going to give a little stir while I'm here. And I'll bring it over for you guys to see. But I'm going to just give this, let this keep melting a little bit. And I'm giving a really good shake. And we've got 2/3 of a cup. So hopefully you guys are with me. How are we doing on pace? Am I going too fast? Too slow? How is it? I can only see a few people, guys. How?
Yeah, the butter's taking its time melting. It's not melting very fast.
It's a bit fast. A bit too fast.
Okay, I'll slow it down. Thank you. It's always hard to know. Okay, so actually, another fun tip, if you keep shaking your butter super hard, your heavy cream, it becomes butter. I did that when I used to teach kindergarten. That was my favorite lesson. We all made butter in class. And the kids were all jumping up and down so that they could shake the cream. Okay, so whenever you measure, remember you want to look at it at eye level. So I'm gonna bend down and I'm doing 2/3, gotta turn it to the right way, 2/3 of a cup. And you just wanna make sure, especially because you just shook the cream, you get a thin layer of bubbles. You want to measure from the bottom of those bubbles so you get the clean line of the liquid. So I've got a solid 2/3 of my cup. Before I pour this in, I'm gonna check on my butter and sugar mixture. And it's simmering. And I know it's simmering because there are little bubbles all around the edge of the pan or the pot. And let me bring this over to you. Oh, I don't know if it's gonna work. So that's, you can see, I'm trying not to pour too hard, much so it seeps out. But you can see how it looks. And before you put your cream in, very important tip.
Mom, can I charge my phone?
You've just heated this butter and sugar so it's very hot, and you're putting cold cream in. So you want to do it very slowly and pour the cream against the side of the pot so it starts to ease in and doesn't seize up. So let me show you what that looks like. It's a little hard to see. We're getting so high tech that pretty soon I'm gonna have a camera right here and we're gonna get to see what that looks like. But for right now, I'm just gonna show you. I'm just carefully pouring this on the side and giving a really strong whisk. So slow pour, strong whisking. Take your time. It's okay if it takes a minute or two. So I'm continuing to do this so it really comes together. Every last bit of that delicious cream. And this is, again, why we have strong arms in baking, because you need 2 solid minutes of hardcore whisking. So we can whisk together. If you get super tired, you can do the other. We don't want one strong arm. We need 2. So I'm gonna, now you can see the beautiful kitchen this way. This is so much fun. Are you guys having fun? I'm having fun. All right, 2 minutes of whisking. And it should thin out a little bit because the cream is now melting in with the butter and the sugar. So it should thin out a little bit. And I'm just gonna do a quick check to make sure I haven't missed anything. And then it's going to gently bubble. And we need to add vanilla and salt after we take it off. So we're going to stir it another minute or 2. Oh, and I forgot to check how much vanilla we need. We need 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we need 1/8 of a teaspoon salt. I put mine in here today because I have a grinder. Oh, and I'm gonna put my cream back. All right. Any questions? And everyone here is super excited because their bonus is they get to have apple chips and caramel sauce. All right, so you should have a nice bubbling mixture going. Of course, I didn't look at the clock to see how long I've been whisking. I'm gonna just give it another second so we can all come to the same place. I feel good about it. This is such a nice recipe because what I'm gonna tell you next, my favorite part of this is an awesome gift. And I'm gonna show you how you can make this a gift for other people. Of course, eat it yourself too, but you might even have extra, you could do both. I'm gonna turn my pot off and I'm gonna take it off the heat and I'm going to get my 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm gonna give that a shake. You know, you gotta always shake everything up. This is so brand new, I need to take the paper off, I forgot. And 1 teaspoon, we said. Okay. 1 teaspoon. And you guys know by now, I love my vanilla. So if you're a little heavy-handed with it, it's okay. Everything's better with vanilla. And I've got my salt. Whisking, whisking, whisking. Oh. Now, it really thinned out, but it's gonna thicken up, so don't worry.
Do we turn the heat off now on top of the stove?
Yes, you turn the heat off. You take the pot off the heat and move it over to a cooler, whatever this is, stove pot.
I didn't know if we needed the heat any longer after that. So
You're all good. You'll add your 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and your 1/8 of a teaspoon, I hope this doesn't melt, of salt. Mix it all together. I'm just giving it a little extra whisk, and I'm gonna see. You can see it's really got that caramel color. Here. Let me show you guys. This might be a way to help. So you can see it's pretty liquidy. It's got a really beautiful caramel brown color, and the smell is amazing. Okay, I'm cleaning up my area as I like to do. And what I mentioned at the end, or at one point, was that you would need an airtight container. And so I've got this jar. It's probably a little too big, but you can keep this caramel in the fridge for up to 1 month, and you can take it out to room temperature or warm it up, reheat it in the microwave when you want to use it, because warm caramel is amazing. And you can have it with anything. You could pour it over ice cream. You could pour it over yogurt. You could dip your apple slices in it, the chips we made, but even just plain apple is delicious. You could make caramel apples. Endless opportunities. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. I'm going to pour. Now, I would suggest if you're going to do this at home, you can wait until this cools, but because we don't have that much time, I'm going to do it now. So again, just like I told you about the cream, whenever you pour something, in order to prevent splashing, angling things or pouring them towards an edge is a way to prevent that. So I'm going to angle my jar. This is daring of me to do this, by the way, over the counter and not by the sink, but gentle pour. Clearly my jar is probably a little too big, but that's okay. It is really pretty. Okay. Now, I'm gonna just leave this for a second and show you what your apple chips are gonna look like when they come out of the oven. So you'll also need an airtight container for that. I love these. I get these at Costco. They are glass bottom and plastic tops, and the tops are really tight. And so your chips.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Don't interrupt that. Was I supposed to put them in the oven?
The apple chips?
Yeah.
Yes.
For how long?
2 to 3 hours, 200 degrees.
Gosh. Okay.
No worries. It's totally fine. They are fine to sit out while we were here, and it'll just take you a little longer for them to cook, but that's okay. Ooh, oh my, I'll drop that in there. So I just want you to see, it's kind of a little crispy and a little chewy. And this is what they look like when they're finished. They're thin, they stick together, some of them, but they're delicious. They're great eaten by themselves. They're great served together. You could pour, if you were serving, now what did I just do? Oh, here, let me get my. You could take an extra dish. You could pour your caramel sauce and serve it with your apple chips. Look at that. And you could have this for your family or for your roommates or for yourself. And you could serve it like this. If you wanted to give this as a gift, you could take your jar. You could even take a smaller jar. You know, I like to collect these. And I just got this pretty parchment paper. I folded it up and I put some apple chips in it. Here, let me move this out of the way. You could, we'll just leave that here. You could punch a hole with a hole puncher. If you were going to give this to somebody that was not, you had to travel to take it, I would close this up. And you could just, you could even leave it or you could keep it. I always save my ribbons. Because we're new at Main Street here in the kitchen, I had to buy all of our fun new kitchen things. And the kitchen towels came with this ribbon. So I saved the ribbon. And now we're going to reuse it for my, you know what would have been really smart of me? And I'll do it now. With my hole again, I'm just going to do this a little lower. If you punch through the folded part, then it will keep it sealed. Putting my ribbon. And look at this beautiful little gift you have.
Wow.
You could put a little gift tag on it. This is a great thing you could bring over if you were visiting somebody and you wanted to bring it, or you just want it to look pretty. And you have a really fun, you could write a little note. I always love a handwritten note. You could add that on. But here we have our apple chips and caramel dip. And let me get away so we get a nice little view. I don't know if we wanted to take a shot. Should we try? Yeah, should we try for a picture so we see our beautiful end result?
What were you saying?
Oh, I was saying that I thought now that we have presented our beautiful apple chips and caramel, that maybe we take a picture at the end so we remember what it looked like.
Okay, and also you said 2 to 3 hours they cook?
Yeah, 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
Okay, so 1 sec.
We'll take one after.
Yay! All right, does anyone have any questions or comments or anything they want?
You said something about turning the chips when they're in the oven. How often do you have to do that?
I would do it maybe in between, after the first hour. And just note, they harden up after you take them out of the oven too. So even though they might feel very pliable or, you know, still soft, they will harden up a little bit afterward.
And how do you know when they're done?
It's kind of forgiving. Again, if you want them crispier, you can leave them in a little longer. They're just dehydrating when they're in there. So the 2 to 3 hours is based on your oven. If you look at 2 hours and they look pretty done and the edges are starting to brown, I would take them out. If they look like they still need more time, I would just every 20 minutes check on them. If you want to flip one more time, you could. But it's not, the beautiful thing about, I always try and pick recipes that are forgiving, right? It's hard when you're baking something and you put a lot of effort in it, like a souffle, and it has to be perfect and you have one chance. These recipes are super easy and totally, if it doesn't go perfectly, it's okay. So you just do it to your liking really at the end. But I wouldn't do more than 3 hours.
That's cool. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Yeah, my pleasure. Does anyone anything else? And when you finish, guys, if you would send pictures of you and your delicious food, we would love to post it and share it. So
Okay, also, when you said when the thing was done, almost done, you said it was supposed to smell sweet, but for me, I smell a little butter in it.
Oh, that's a really good observation. Yes, it is a buttery sweet smell. If you're picking up more butter, that's okay too.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? And you can always reach out if you have a concern or question after this. I'm happy to.
I was gonna say, it almost smells like Cinnabon in here.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. Absolutely. You know what I forgot to mention, guys? When we did this in the summer, we did polls every single week. And we thought, even though we care so much about what you think and feel, that might have been a bit excessive. So we're just going to do a poll at the beginning of our session and at the end. So we're going to run a quick poll. And I think we're launching the poll. We're going to let Ben talk, and I'm going to stop talking. So.
Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me. We are launching a poll, and there it is. Thank you guys so much for joining today. If you have any feedback beyond the very quick poll question, please email me or anyone at Main Street, and we will be happy to learn from you. We have yoga at 4 o'clock today and many events the next few days, so please go on our website and check it out. All right, guys, I guess we are all set. Have a great day. Thank you so much for participating. We'll see you later.
Sorry, I have a quick
Everyone.
question. Sorry. Quick question. Oh, okay.